Welcome to the Grow Your Business and Grow Your Wealth podcast with Gary Heldt. Gary is an expert in helping business owners put together a plan that will provide a better future for their businesses, themselves, and their families. On the podcast, Gary interviews other professionals who share his vision, and together they share secrets and strategies any business owner can use to build a better financial foundation for your business and your life.
Back to the podcast. This week, our guest is Garcia, and she is the managing partner of Independent Progressive Advisors. Welcome, Ann.
Thanks for having me, Gary.
So, Ann, what made you get into the financial arena?
So two pieces of that. One, how I became a financial advisor. I worked in technology for a long time, ironically, and a lot of that was at Intuit, which made Quicken and TurboTax. And we always joke that every January 15th, all of our friends would call and ask for a free copy of TurboTax. And every April 15th, they'd call and ask what to do with their tax return and with their tax refund. And I found I really enjoyed having those conversations with people. And so I did a career pivot after having kids and decided I wanted to have those conversations all the time. So I went back to school and did the certified financial planner curriculum, took the test, and became a financial advisor. And it's been, I guess, about 12 years now. Early on in my career, I found that a lot of my firm's clients were coming in with questions about how to pay for college, and none of the other advisors really wanted to talk about that. And being a parent myself of two kids who I hoped would be attending college, I felt like learning something about that would not only be a service to my clients, but help me and my family get through this very, very large and significant expense investment, call it what you want in your child's and your family's future.
Right. Now, when you talk about, the college planning side of things, are you only dealing with clients in, here, this is how to invest your money, or are you talking with them about, the proper colleges to pick for their students, scholarships, so forth and so on?
Yeah, it's a great question because there are so many elements to a college plan. And I like to look at it comprehensively because there are just so many layers to it. There's savings, there's coming up with a budget, there's figuring out what pathway your kid is on. There's, building their high school course curriculum. There's finding the colleges that are likely to give them scholarships. There's filing the FAFSA. There's coming up with a spending plan, whether it's just paying from savings, whether you're contributing from cash flow, being eligible for tax credits. And then, of course, the big piece for us as financial planners is how do you balance college and retirement?
Right. Now, so in going through this and doing this with a number of families and things like that, what are some of the common mistakes that you see the families are making?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think one of the really hard things about planning for college is it's such an opaque system. And then there's the whole, if I knew when my child was born what college they were going to go to, it would be super easy to plan for it, but I have to plan for a whole range of outcomes. So I think the number one mistake that families make is the ostrich approach of just saying, this is too hard, I'm just going to ignore it. The problem with that is you have a very short amount of time to prepare yourself for a college, and you have a really specific deadline, which is around 18 years from the time that your child is born to get there. So that's one big mistake, is just not planning for it. I think another really big mistake that I see families making is they hear savings penalizes you in the financial aid formula, so it's better if I don't save. And the reality is, while it's true that savings are factored into your ability to pay for college, they're factored in a very small way. And the more savings you have, the more choices your student is going to have. Not all colleges meet financial needs, so it could even be moot, the fact that you didn't save. But again, more savings equals more choices. I mean, my daughter's a perfect example. She was accepted to our in-state public school with a full tuition scholarship. which was a great opportunity for her, but the school wasn't really a good fit for her on a lot of the sort of softer factors. Because we had saved, she was able to attend a private university that gave her an excellent scholarship package, but that was still more than full tuition scholarship at our in-state school. Had we not saved, she wouldn't have had that choice. And she's really just had a phenomenal college experience, really stretched her boundaries, learned a ton, made some great friends. And it's put her on a whole different trajectory than she might have been otherwise. So saving is good. Not saving is a mistake. The other thing is that there's been a lot of research done that shows that families who have saved for college, their children are more likely to enroll and graduate from college, regardless of the amount of money that they have saved. So you don't have to have $300,000 saved for college, but any amount is probably going to get your kid to enroll and graduate. I think another mistake that people make is putting too much reliance on the financial aid forms, the FAFSA and the CSS profile. So a lot of families say, "Oh, great, I got a really low expected family contribution," which is the number that the FAFSA calculates as your family's ability to pay on the FAFSA. So that means that college is only going to cost me this much. Colleges may or may not meet your financial need, and even if they do meet your financial need, they might not meet all of it, or they might use loans and work study as part of your financial aid package. So it's not enough to just do good on the FAFSA. You have to use that information to select schools that are likely to meet your need. I think the other piece of it is, the other mistake would be assuming that the best, air quotes, college that you can get into is the best choice for your student. We have a tendency to equate cost and exclusivity with quality.
Right.
And when it comes to college, what you're really looking at is not what's best in the US News and World Report ranking systems, but what's best for your child. So what's a good fit for them academically, what's a good fit for them socially, and what's a good fit for them financially. Because the thing that will have the biggest impact from their college choice on their future ultimately is not what college they go to, it's not what major they have, it's how much student loan debt they owe when they graduate. Because excessive student loans will dictate where they can live, AKA in your basement, what jobs they can take, whether they can go to graduate school, whether they can buy a car, a home, so many things that we don't even think about. For example, student loan debt correlates with not getting married and not having children. So those would be some of the big mistakes that I see, people making.
So, dispel this if this is a myth or not. I hear many people say, "Oh, well, my kid is currently going to a private high school. The guidance counselors are there to help us get them into college and get the financial aid we need."
So, that varies tremendously from school to school. Many high schools place a very high value in making sure that a very high percentage, if not 100%, of their students enroll in college immediately afterwards, particularly private schools. And it's also true that colleges, when they are particularly highly selective colleges, more academically rigorous colleges, will look at high schools that their students have attended, where their successful students have come from, and say, okay, we know that these schools do a good job of preparing kids for our path. Whether attending one of those schools is going to get your kid into one of those colleges is a different question. Plenty of colleges send kids on to great places, and how helpful your guidance counselors are in finding financial aid opportunities for you. I've seen I've seen huge variances in what they're able to do. The one thing that families need to know is there's two big types of scholarships out there. There are those that are based on financial need. Oftentimes, guidance counselors can be very helpful for students with high need in helping them to identify colleges that will meet their need. And one of the things that we see a lot of is high performing, low income kids don't apply to elite colleges because they're worried about the cost. And in fact, those are the colleges that are most likely to be most generous to them. So a good guidance counselor might be able to help a kid like that along the path. The other thing that guidance counselors can be really helpful for is understanding your state's public colleges merit scholarship policies. Many of them are very good about that, but not all are. So I think, if you think your guidance counselor is going to be a good resource, make sure they understand the difference between need and merit aid, that they understand what types of aid your student is likely to be eligible for, which they probably don't have a lot of visibility to your family's financial situation. In particular, if you are at a socioeconomically diverse high school, where they really don't have a lot of visibility beyond kids who are eligible for free and reduced lunch and other, and other programs. But good guidance counselors can help you find colleges that offer generous merit scholarships for students like yours. So those are ones that are just based on academics. They do, particularly if you're at a high school that has a lot of college reps come in to visit at their college and career center. Oftentimes the guidance counselor will have a good relationship with those reps and understand what their financial aid and merit aid policies are. I think one of the important things that families overlook is so much of the college narrative is driven by the Stanfords and Harvards of the world. Most colleges don't operate like Stanford and Harvard, which are rejecting, 95% of applicants. Most colleges are actually trying to recruit and enroll students. And one of their best tools for recruitment and enrollment is scholarships. And so getting back to your original question, which I know I've gone a long ways around it. Oftentimes your high school guidance counselor may know about those kinds of schools that might not be on your radar screen. And oftentimes they can be a good help. The other thing that guidance counselors can be really helpful for is knowing about local scholarships that are available. So, kids so often go to FastWeb and the big databases of scholarships. The really great outside scholarship opportunities tend to be the local ones, not because they're better or worse than the national ones, but because the applicant pool is smaller and you're much more likely to get it. And so chances are that the guidance counselor at your high school has a database of locally available scholarships.
Gotcha. So, you bring up the Stanfords and, any of the other, I'm going to say big schools. Lots of times they cost more money one way or another. And someone's child wants to, and not to pick on any particular, degree or anything, but they want to get an arts degree and they want to go to Stanford to get this. And how do you get that student to buy in and have skin in the game? Because mom and dad are going to pay an awful lot of money if they're paying for it, for you to get an arts degree, or you're going to take out student loans to get it, that you may not make the kind of money to help offset, what those are. How do you get the students to buy into this?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think it's so important for students to have agency in the process of selecting colleges, but they need to have agency within limits. And so my recommendation to parents, and one of the first things in my book, How to Pay for College, is that you think long and hard about what it is you're actually trying to accomplish by sending your child to college. So not what do I want to tell my friends about where my kid is going, but who is the 25-year-old version of this 17-year-old? Who is the 30-year-old version of this 17-year-old? And then what are things that make my child successful? Or what are things what are things that make them feel unsuccessful? And start by looking at those things and use that to drive your vision of what college should be for your student. If you can afford a private university education for your student, even if they're going to become an arts major, good for you. If you can't afford it, if you can't afford full price, also good for you is that there are lots and lots of those colleges that will give generous scholarships if you're willing to do the legwork to find them. What is not good for you is to say, I have a budget of $20,000. I am not eligible for need-based aid, and my kid is going to go to Stanford, which costs $80,000 a year.
Right.
So something's got to give in that model. If you are committed to your student attending a particular school or a particular type of school, an Ivy League, an elite private school, you have to be prepared to pay the costs for them to go there. If, on the other hand, you're committed to your student getting a great education at a price that your family can afford, there are going to be lots and lots of ways for you to get that.
Right. Again, this is the accountant coming out in me, in the fact of being realistic about it, and is the degree that you're getting going to ever make enough money to pay, the parents have already paid for it, but would it have, if you had to get the loans for it, would it ever pay those loans back?
Right.
And I think sometimes people get a little too caught up in where they're going to go to school as compared to the type of education am I going to get, and when I leave there, what are my opportunities going to be as a professional?
Yeah. One of the things that I really stress in my book is you need to be thinking about college from the perspective of why college, not which college. Why college is empowering, which college is limiting. To your point about, how much should you spend for whatever degree, my very strong recommendation, caution, call it what you will, is that regardless of career path that a student intends, they should not borrow more than the federal direct student loan limits every year. A lot of people say, well, my student's going to be an engineer and going to make a ton of money, so it's worth paying more for them to go to, MIT or wherever. Well, more than 50% of students change their major over the course of their college career. So it really does not make sense to choose a college based on what you think a 17-year-old is going to do. And in fact, STEM fields are the ones with the highest attrition rates in college. A student who borrows the full direct student loan amount every year, which is $5,500 their first year, $6,500 their second year, and then $7,500 their last 2 years, will owe a little over $27,000 when they graduate. And that translates to a 10-year repayment with monthly payments of about $300. Now, if that's what the difference between them getting a degree and not getting a degree, that will more than pay for itself in both near-term and long-term earnings. When you get into anything beyond that, you start stretching the boundaries of the possible.
Right. Now, you talked about your book, that's coming out. When is your launch date of your book?
So it comes out July 19th, which is shockingly close to now.
Right, exactly. And what's the name of your book?
It's called How to Pay for College.
Okay. In there you talk about, investments and things like that for your family to use. But then you also talk about how to save for college while you're saving for retirement and so forth.
Yeah.
You also talk in there about getting your student to have skin in the game, and you also have a lot of tips for them on when you should get your FAFSA forms in and other resources like that. Can you talk about some of those?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see where to begin. So let's start with saving. You should save for college. If you intend for your kid to go to college, you should save for college. And for most people, the best place to save is a 529 plan. And my book has a checklist worksheet on how to choose a 529, set it up, get a monthly contribution going, and then give yourself a reminder every year, maybe on your kid's birthday. Think about, it's not just great that you're 7 years old, but 10 years from now, who do I want you to be and what opportunities do I want you to have? Hey, that's a great time to bump up my monthly contribution to your 529. The big question for so many families is how you balance saving for college with your other obligations. There's been this saying for a while, you should save for retirement, not college, because you can take out loans for college, not for retirement. That's how we got over $1 trillion in outstanding student loan debt. So you need to do both, and they need to be in balance. My rule of thumb for people is if you don't have emergency savings, you don't have college savings. If you're not saving for retirement, you also should not be saving for college. If you're saving for retirement but not maxing out your retirement savings, then 10% of what you put into retirement should be the maximum amount that you put into college. So if you're saving $10,000 a year for retirement instead of $19,500, which is the current maximum for a 401k for someone under 50, then you should only be contributing $1,000 a year to college. If you want to save more for college, bump up your retirement savings rate and then bump up your college savings rate with it. Once you get to the point where you're maxing out retirement savings, then you have more flexibility in maybe targeting your state's deductible amount for 529 contributions, or when you get to that point, you're probably also at a point where your kids are in school and you have a little bit of a sense of who they are academically. And you might think about working backwards from, say, the cost of in-state tuition to how much I need to be contributing to savings. In general, if your college savings account balance is more than 20% of your retirement savings account balance, you're probably overemphasizing college at the expense of retirement. So let's see, where else were we?
So what are some of the because you talked about going different places to get scholarships and things like that. In your book, do you talk about some of those places that they should be looking?
Yeah. So scholarships, the majority of scholarship money is going to come directly from the college. Those are always the best scholarships to get. And virtually every college offers some form of scholarship. It's just a matter of, are you the student that they offer it to? So, for example, the top schools don't offer merit scholarships because everyone's fabulous. Being a merit scholarship recipient elsewhere is sort of table stakes for getting in, but they're very generous with need-based financial aid. Once you get below that top level of colleges, maybe the top 10, top 20, you're in the realm of colleges that offer merit awards. And a lot of what they're doing in offering merit awards is trying to attract higher quality students who will move their school up the US News and World Report ranking, ranking level. And so one way to find merit scholarships is to search for colleges where your student is in the top 20% academically, and that's GPA and often test scores. So even though most colleges are test optional for admissions, they do still factor SATs and ACTs into their merit awards because US News and World Report would like to have SAT and ACT scores for their rankings. So that's one pool of money, is what comes from the colleges themselves. There's a big myth that private schools are the only ones who offer merit scholarships. In fact, most public colleges are quite generous with their in-state students and oftentimes with out-of-state students. So for example, we live in Oregon. My son goes to the University of Arizona, which offered him a merit scholarship that made it cost the same for him to go to Arizona as it would have cost to go to Oregon. So lots and lots of scholarships out there. Most public universities automatically grant scholarships to eligible students. So you can go to your state's public colleges and look on their website for scholarships for incoming freshmen, and you'll see exactly what GPA and test score, if included, is necessary to get what scholarship. Great exercise to do when your kid is a freshman in high school, because there's a couple key pieces of that. One is what GPA is required, and two is how do they calculate GPA. Oftentimes they use unweighted GPA, not weighted GPA. And so a student who takes a lot of AP or IB classes and gets lesser grades might find that they're costing themselves merit scholarships by doing that. So that's the institutional side of scholarships. There's another big pool of scholarships, which are what's called outside scholarships. And those are scholarships that basically come from any place other than the college itself. They tend to be less generous. They have special treatment in the financial aid formula where they will reduce need-based financial aid, but that doesn't mean that they aren't great scholarships. So for example, my daughter has an outside scholarship where she gets $5,000 a year for tuition. She gets $1,000 a year for a technology purchase. And then her scholarship gives her a professional mentor, and her mentor helped her find a great internship last summer. So those scholarships,
a pretty good scholarship.
It's a great scholarship, especially because her internship is with one of the big airlines, and so she gets free travel in addition to a high salary and a great job.
Perfect.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that scholarship. So the way you find those scholarships is by looking for them. And my book, How to Pay for College, and my online course at my website, howtopayforcollege.com, both have worksheets for how to go about finding these outside scholarships. So there are big websites like FastWeb and Scholarly and whatnot that have databases of scholarships, and they're crazy scholarships. I mean, make a duct tape suit and send a picture of yourself, or there's scholarships for tall people. There's scholarships for dog lovers. Really anything you are, there's probably a scholarship for you. The other place that is a much better place to look, in my experience, is closer to home. So what activities do you participate in that might have scholarships? Club sports teams often have scholarships. After school programs have scholarships. Many high school sports teams have scholarships for their players. Ask your teachers about scholarships you might be eligible for. My daughter found her scholarship through her high school computer science teacher. He recommended that she apply for it. She applied, got it, and $20,000 later, we're very grateful to him.
Right. When somebody goes through this process, if they're going for any of the scholarships from the school, even if it's just, I'm going to say on the lower end scholarships and stuff, because many people say, "Oh, I make too much money. I'm not going to spend the time filling out the FAFSA." Mm-hmm. It's my understanding if you don't fill out the FAFSA, then you're definitely not getting anything merit or need-based or any other way.
Well, you're definitely eligible for a smaller pool of scholarships if you don't fill out the FAFSA. Merit scholarships generally are awarded on the basis of merit, not on the basis of need. However, many of them have a need component to them. Right. So you may be limiting the pool of scholarships that you're eligible for if you don't fill out the FAFSA. But, for many students, merit scholarships are going to be their best option because the aid formula is such that, you're not going to, if your expected family contribution as calculated by the FAFSA is more than the cost of attendance at your college, you are not eligible for any need-based aid, and merit is going to be what you get. And unfortunately for most parents, their expected family contribution is a whole lot more than they expect their family to contribute to college. And that's where merit scholarships become really important. The other thing, though, I always caution parents, regardless of your financial status, you should fill out the FAFSA. And there are lots and lots of reasons for that. Here's reason number one. As much as families want to find scholarships for college, colleges want to find families who are willing to pay full price.
Right.
And if that's you, in many cases, it will give you a leg up in the admissions process. Just knowing that you don't have financial need. The other reason to fill out the FAFSA is the application for federal student loans. So if you want your student to have any skin in the game in the form of a student loan, only by filling out the FAFSA can they take out that student loan. And if you don't go the federal student loan route and instead go the private student loan route, you will be the co-signer on those loans, whereas the federal student loans are the students and the student's loan. So all of those are good reasons to fill out the FAFSA. The other thing is, for me as a parent, there are rules I have for my kids in going to college. And while I might tell them I'm only paying for your college as long as you X, Y, or Z, I'm really not going to pull the rug out from under them if they don't do that. But I am going to tell them, you know what, you're kicking in the loan this year.
Right. What do you know now about the college, loan process and everything? What do you know now that you wish you knew when you first started out?
So that's such a good question. And I think there are ways to answer it as a parent and ways to answer it as a financial advisor. So I'm going to start by answering it as a parent. I wish I knew that better, faster, stronger wasn't always the best path. And I will use my son as an example for that. He's a smart kid, but he's also a normal boy. And so when he was in high school, because he was a smart kid, he tested into a lot of high-level classes. Because he was a normal boy, he had a lot of other interests besides homework. He played club soccer, he had a girlfriend, he had a job, he did lots of things. Spending 5 hours a night on homework wasn't one of them. But we had internalized that the best thing for your kid is to have them take the hardest classes they possibly can when they're in high school. And so he was enrolled in a lot of advanced math and IB classes and what have you. And he ended up with a terrible GPA coming out of high school. And when he applied to colleges, he was really committed to getting out of Dodge. And he's always been someone who's carved his own path and really did not want to follow the pack to Oregon or Oregon State. He wanted to go out of state. And we're like, sorry, dude, we're, based on the effort you put into high school, we're not putting that effort into college. Fortunately, he found another college that had a scholarship based on his ACT scores that brought the cost down to the same as what he would have paid to go to Oregon. But we realized that his GPA, if it had been just a little bit higher, would have qualified for him for an extra $12,000 a year in merit scholarships. And, because we had pushed him into these harder classes, not only did it cost us a whole lot of money, but it cost us a whole lot of frustration with him as a student, where multiple nights every week he'd be crying over his homework. He'd always say, I'm the dumbest person in any of my classes. He was so frustrated with everything. And now he's in college and he's knocking it out of the park. He's a 4.0 student in business. He's tutoring statistics where he got a D in high school calculus. So, as a parent, I would say, look for the things that make your student feel successful and good about themselves. Challenge is good, and challenge that lets them succeed and helps them build those skills is really, really good. So just because your school offers a full IB diploma doesn't mean that that's the right path for your students. Instead, let them follow their passions, let them learn who they are, and let the person that they learn who they are be someone other than the dumbest person in all their classes.
I get that. I mean, it's sometimes you do feel that way because you struggle some, and that's definitely. But it's great that he's kind of found his footing now where he's at and flourishing.
Yeah, he's absolutely flourishing there. And my only regret is that we didn't set him up for that kind of success a little sooner. So challenge is good, but it needs to be challenge that somebody can be successful at, not one that's going to end up in ultimate frustration. On the financial side, so things I wish I knew. Well, okay, I'm going to say I'm a financial planner, so I'm a planner. So, I set up 529s for my kids before they were born and told people that was a good place to make baby gifts. So I'm just going to say, if you're pregnant now, that would be something to do. But I think the most important thing that I've learned is that the best way to prepare yourself financially for college is to be intentional and disciplined about it. And so intentional means setting up a savings plan and contributing to it. Disciplined means having an automatic monthly contribution going in. Saving and investing is the ultimate must be present to win game. You are far better off doing the second best thing than wasting time trying to figure out what the first best thing is. Your state's 529 might not be perfect, but if it's easy, do it.
Right.
I think
that goes with any savings plan that you're getting into, if it's your not just for college and stuff like that, but for your personal emergency savings, your 401k or anything else. Make it simple, because if you make it simple, then you tend to stick to it a little bit more.
Absolutely. The thing you do 99% of the time will have a better outcome than the thing that you don't do.
Right. Exactly. All right. We covered a lot of stuff. We could probably go on for another couple hours with this, because, this is a topic that so many people really need to learn about, and knowing the rules are important. What have I not asked you that you wish that I had?
Oh, that's always a good question. So, not that you haven't asked, but that's something that I want to make sure that people know. When it comes to college, you have a lot of good choices. So many families think, I don't have $80,000 a year to spend for college, so I'm stuck with, community college or my in-state school. You have lots and lots of good choices. So, and there are lots and lots of tools to find those choices. My book goes in great detail about how to find all those good choices and whatnot. And so that, to me, is the most important thing for families to remember, is you have lots and lots of good choices, and you have the opportunity through saving, through disciplined spending, through identifying your budget and having good conversations with your kid about college, you have the opportunity to create even more choices for them.
Great. So, and if our listeners like what they hear, they want to get your book, they want to get involved in your online program, how do they find you?
Yeah, so my book is How to Pay for College, and that comes out the 19th of July, so very soon. It's available from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your favorite independent bookseller. So that's a great starting point for all of these topics. My website is howtopayforcollege.com. It has tons and tons of content as well, slightly less organized than the book. And then, but on my website, I do have my online course, the College Financial Plan Masterclass, which is really targeted for families who are in high school and really looking to get serious and in depth about their college planning and map out all the details. So How to Pay for College or howtopayforcollege.com is the best place to find me.
Great. And really appreciate your time and all the information you've been able to provide to the listeners. I think that, again, it's something that everybody needs to look at. And if you haven't started planning, you need to do it, like ASAP.
Absolutely. Sooner is better.
Right. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me, Gary.
Sure. This week, our guest was Garcia, who is the managing partner of Independent Progressive Advisors. And we will see you guys next week.
This show has been produced by Market Domination, LLC. To discover how you can have your own show completely done for you and turn it into a real published book and become the authority in your marketplace, go to www.marketdominationllc.com/podcast offer.